Hi, Stephanie. It is so great for you to be here with GI Jobs. How are you doing today?
I'm fantastic. How are you, Kate?
I'm doing really well, thank you. Okay, so we will just hop right in. Can you tell me just like a little bit about yourself, growing up, school, career, family, hobbies, anything? I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, that's a lot. We're going to be here a while. Let's see. Tell your life story in like 14 seconds. Go.
Elevator pitch.
Yeah, so I'm Stephanie Lincoln, and I am the founder and owner of Fire Team Whiskey Military Fitness. I am an Army veteran. I actually rose my right hand when I was 17 years old and joined the Army. This was back in 1997. So I enlisted in the old school pre 9/11 Army, and obviously things changed very much when 9/11 happened. I actually was in OCS when 9/11 happened. I enlisted. I was an enlisted person, then decided to go to OCS. Went to OCS, became an officer, a branch signal, and then I actually got invited back to become a certified Army instructor at the Officer Candidate Schoolhouse. So I got certified as an Army instructor, spent the rest of my career as an Army instructor at the OCS officers course. So that's a summary of my military experience. I left the military after 10 years. I was having some family issues, so decided, Army's always going to be there. If I wanted to go back, I could. But it didn't turn out that way. I actually ended up creating a business to help military members, veterans, and first responders lose weight, get fit, and get healthy, because I noticed in my work I worked in military mental health contracts. I kind of felt like I never left the military, because basically a year and a half after I got out, I got hired to be the very first embedded behavioral health provider in the Florida Army National Guard. So I was handed a caseload of an entire state, 14,000 soldiers. And they said, hey, we have a suicide epidemic. Good luck with that. You're the only provider we have.
Yeah.
So to say the least, it was a huge undertaking. And I loved every minute of it. And this kind of culminated into me working within military mental health contracts with all sorts of different branches within the Army, the National Guard, the Air Force, Army Reserves, Air Force Reserves. So did a lot of that work. And of course, with the loss of the government money along the way, and the recession, I got laid off. And I found myself, kind of looking for something to do with my life and my career path. And I know I wanted definitely to be helping veterans. I didn't know in what way, but I happened to be a certified fitness trainer, and I was leading some workouts for local veterans, for the local Army National Guard. And definitely along the way, I noticed that there just was a huge kind of elephant in the room at these medical events I was going to. And I just would notice when I sit down with these soldiers and look through their medical records, that these 22-year-old guys, 24-year-old guys, 26-year-old guys, they're 60 pounds overweight, they're on blood pressure medication, they're complaining of all sorts of aches and pains. They're failing their fitness tests, they're barely passing it, and they're just metabolically unhealthy. And I kind of was looking around, I'm like, why is nobody talking about this? Why is no one addressing what I see as a huge issue, and very much linked with all these medical issues that were increasing over the years that I saw in my decade of work doing military medical health. So I'm a hard charger, and I don't identify a problem and not create a solution for it. So I created the solution. I created Fire Team Whiskey. I wanted to be able to provide a holistic program that any military member or veteran anywhere in the world could do, where they have a good nutrition plan, a sustainable way of living, a way to work out even without any access to equipment, and then also connections with other military veterans and other first responders who are struggling with the same things, and then also, a professional, a military fitness professional who could coach them through the process and make sure that they are successful. So that kind of, that accountability element that we all need and that we're used to as being in the military. Basically I turned into, that drill sergeant again, the TAC officer again. And so now, actually, just right before we started this interview, I was kind of, giving some tough love to one of my Fire Team Whiskey members who, kind of fell off plane again. And, he's lost a lot of weight and he's had some progress, but he keeps kind of self-sabotaging. So I was kind of giving him a very military pep talk. Some of it involves, putting my boot up somewhere. So,
Yes.
that's the style, because I think that's what we need as military veterans. It's like we need that, drill sergeants sometimes in our lives when things get tough and we really want to achieve something.
Yeah. So obviously this is something that encompasses all sorts of fitness, like mental fitness and fortitude and physical fitness and fortitude. And that's obviously something you are very passionate and very good at, because you have your own sort of personal experience with flexing your physical and mental fitness for sort of a survival mode. You were recently hiking, and reported missing, which is, my heart sank reading your story and going through it. Can you walk us through what happened?
Yeah. I love that you said survival, because one of the things that I've been saying over and over and over again in the last few years that I've, created Fire Team Whiskey and own this business, I do a lot of public speaking, is this isn't just about looking good in a bikini or looking good in your bathing suit and wanting like 6-pack abs. Sure, that's awesome, but that's not what we're talking about, because I created Fire Team Whiskey because I wanted military members and first responders to be physically and mentally capable of responding to the what if every single day. So if you're overweight, if you have bad cardiovascular fitness, if you have constant injuries because you're not taking care of yourself and your nutrition, if you have poor response time because you're not working on your agility and coordination with your fitness, these things put you at more and more risk of the what ifs. If you're in law enforcement, the what if I have to, I'm attacked by a perpetrator or a criminal. If I, engage in this firefight here, and I'm deployed and I'm having to run and jump and pull my own body weight over a wall or help carry a buddy, how are you going to be able to do that if you could barely get yourself up 2 flight of stairs without having to take a break?
Right.
So this is about survival. And one of the elements of my my mission with Fire Team Whiskey is to make sure that we talked about the mental health issues, because I am a licensed mental health counselor by trade, and we all know we get in our own way 99.9% of the time. It is our issues, our struggles inside, our dis-ease inside, as my favorite chaplain says. If you're not at ease, you're at dis-ease.
Yes.
So it's the dis-ease that inside of your heart and your mind that you're getting in your own way, because it's not rocket science, right?
Right.
Good nutrition, workout. But why can most people not do it? It's because of that mindset struggle, that mindset fitness.
Yeah.
And yes, so I've been saying this and repeating it like a parrot for about 4 years now. And I found myself in that very situation. I went on a quote unquote day hike just for a couple hours, just meant to be out there for a couple hours. Thank goodness I'm an experienced hiker, and I always carry emergency supplies in a pack with me when I hike. I'm not a typical day hiker with a teeny little bottle of water and walking around out there in Tevas. Like, I'm always in full gear,
Right.
I'm a military, ex-military person. I do my equipment checks. I go out there, I'm prepared, I'm in my uniform. That's kind of my mission out there, no matter if it's an hour hike or if it's a 4-day hike.
Right.
So I found myself in that very situation where I was lost, and I knew that I could potentially be out there for God knows how long. But I, just in my mindset, when I realized I was not going to be able to recover myself and to get myself back to my vehicle or find the trail that I was on, or I thought I was on, I knew that my life was in danger.
Oh my gosh. I would say, so, it was supposed to be this sort of one day, couple hour, maybe out and back sort of situation. And it turned into 3 days, mentally, physically. How did you do it? Was there ever a point where you were afraid that maybe this was it? And if it's too painful to go there, please don't. And what kind of shape were you sort of in physically and mentally when you were eventually rescued?
Yeah. No, I mean, at first, I realized I was just not going to be able to recover myself. I did have that kind of, we all know that feeling that your heart starts beating really fast. You start kind of panicking a little bit. You feel like you might be having a panic attack. You get a little lightheaded. But knowing the signs of a potential panic attack, I engaged in that deep breathing, slowed down my physical response. And then basically at that point, every single person in any kind of life-threatening situation has two choices. You can freeze and panic and just make no decisions at that point, or you can survive.
Right.
So I basically flipped that switch. Okay, panic and freeze or survive. And I hit the survive button.
Yeah.
And from there on until the guy waved at me from the helicopter, the search and rescue helicopter, 3 days later, I was in survival mode. Everything I thought about, every decision I made, every step I took was one step to making sure I survived that situation. So there was no panic. There was no emotion. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I didn't give up. I never once gave up on myself, because if you start to go there mentally, that's when the spiral begins to panic and freeze. And I never took that step towards there because I was only going to mentally take steps towards my survival. So anything I thought of, I was doing mantras, I was saying out loud what I needed, what I expected, what I will do. I got into rituals of thinking and envisioning my rescue and every kind of situation, me finding a road, me hearing a search and rescue team, me hearing and seeing and being seen by a helicopter. I just kept repeating those things in my mind. I had a whole lot of time out there. It's really have to work on it, because it's easy to kind of go down the wrong path mentally and just give up. So every step I took was, okay, what's the next step? This plane didn't work. What's plan B? This plane didn't work. What's plan C? What's plan D? I always had a contingency for every single situation, and just making sure that, it would get me through this day. And all I needed to do was survive that day, and I would have to just worry about the next. So I was actually in fantastic shape thanks to my Fire Team Whiskey program, nutritionally and physically.
Right.
It was physically arduous. I was doing tons of climbing, bouldering. I slid down a ridge. It was long days of miles, looking for a logging road, anything. And it was physically exhausting. And to fight hypothermia, it got into the 30s at night, and I didn't have, cold weather gear to deal with that. I had to pace all night. I did not sleep for 3 days. So in order to, because if I laid down to sleep out there, I would have been hypothermic, and that would have been a very, very life-threatening situation. So I've had some hypothermia training when I used to endurance race for the Florida National Guard endurance racing team. So I knew exactly what to do. You pace all night. you
Yeah.
know, and that's what I did. You just, you know, I called it, I was conducting fire watch, but there was nobody else to hand off my shift.
Yeah, so it
So
was just you. You were
I
you
just
were pulling the
conducted
whole
fire
team.
watch all night long, you know, because I remember doing that in the army, conducting fire watch. We just paced back and forth, you know, around the
Yeah.
perimeter. So that's what I did. I conducted fire watch all night, just to, you know, make sure that I did not succumb to hypothermia. I didn't
Yeah.
have any injuries. I was very, very strategic and careful about any time I crossed the river. I did it right. I had 4 points of contact. I had poles. I moved very slowly. I dried out. I actually got naked out there many times, dried out all my clothing to make sure I did not get hypothermic.
Yeah.
I had plenty of electrolytes with me. I kept hydrated, really well hydrated. I was at a river. I had all the water I could drink.
Water. Yep.
So with between electrolytes and water, I was fine. I had my water sterilization kit, so I didn't get sick from the water. I had my, you know, my emergency mirror, and I had a bright red backpack, and I had my emergency whistle, and I was ready at any time. If I heard any kinds of search and rescue efforts, I was going to be ready for them. And I was. When the helicopter peeked over the trees, I was standing on top of a boulder in a clearing, ready to be seen. And they saw
Wow.
me.
And
So I
that
was
moment
rescued on the third day.
when you saw that helicopter, what were you thoughts and feelings? Was it just like that rush of, you know, relief, or was it, you know, you were surviving, you had already flipped that switch? So what was that moment like? And then, you know, reuniting with your family, that had to just been emotional, to say the very least.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're right. In survival mode, I was just on a mission the whole time. I didn't feel pain,
Right.
feel any emotion. I didn't feel any fatigue. You know, I was just, you know, like a train, a nonstop, you know.
Yeah.
So as soon as, you know, I knew that they were hovering over me, they were assessing the situation, I knew they couldn't land there. So, you know, I was prepared to wait. You know, I didn't know how they were going to get me out of there, but when the guy waved to me and acknowledged, okay, I see you, that's when I basically, I guess my psyche said, okay, you're safe.
Yes.
Now we're going to have you feel some things.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like the safety blanket, you know, like you can
Yeah.
shut the switch off a little bit.
Yeah. So the switch was shut off, and basically my legs just buckled out from underneath me. The physical exhaustion hit me like a ton of bricks, and I collapsed onto that boulder, and I curled up into a ball, and I cried like a baby. I am not ashamed to say that.
No
I
way.
cried like a baby. It just 3 days of just terror, basically.
Yes.
Saved up, you know, for a safe place, which is a very healthy thing to do in a life-threatening situation. And that catharsis of just getting it all out. It's just a
Yes.
vomit of emotion and feeling the physical pain and all my cuts and scrapes and bruises, and just that the fatigue of, you know, just the physical arduousness of what I went through, and the emotional turmoil.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it hit me like a ton of bricks, but was able to gather myself and get it together in time for when the helicopter came back with the guy dangling on the end of the rope.
Okay.
He strapped me in, and we went for a little ride.
Oh my gosh, that is incredible. And I get goosebumps listening to you talk about just like the mental and physical aspect of it. And you know, Fireteam Whiskey just embodies both of those things and more. What tips would you give to other experienced hikers and outdoorsmen and outdoorswomen based on your experience, or just any insight you would want to share? Obviously right now people are getting outside because that's what we can do. I'm in Hawaii, so we're fully locked down. There's no going outside for us right now, but hiking is obviously something that people are engaging more. What tips do you maybe have?
Plan to fail. Plan to fail. That is the theme of my life, I believe. So,
No.
I mean, if you're watching this and you've been in the military, you understand that concept. You've been trained from day one at your basic training, your boot camp. That is something that was just crushed into your skull over and over and over again, was plan to fail. You better have a backup plan. You better have your equipment. You better have your uniform. You better have a plan A, B, C, D, and E, and F, and keep going.
Yeah.
So plan to fail. I know it seems silly to carry a big backpack when you only plan on, being on a well-marked trail for an hour, and it's just, just a quick outing. But I think you there in Hawaii, you guys had somebody who went 14 days missing. Thank goodness.
Yes.
She recovered.
Mm-hmm.
They recovered her, but she went out. She thought she was going to be out there for an hour. She brought nothing, and she
Yeah.
was wearing like a tank top and maybe some shorts.
Yes.
She didn't even have water with her. That, I mean, the fact that she survived is just beyond me. So plan to fail. I don't care if you plan on being out there 30 minutes or 4 days. You need to pack there's a list of 10 essentials, and we have that on our website as well, of what you need to pack. And then I would add another 5 things on top of that. Just plan on being out there for a few days. So whatever you would take at a minimum, to survive, then that's what you need to bring. But, again, you also have to be prepared and be smart educational wise. So, if you're a novice hiker, I certainly wouldn't recommend you going out there alone, even with good equipment. Equipment's not going to save you if you don't know the basics of, how many people know how to cross a river correctly.
Right.
And I would say 99.9% of people can't even raise their hand. They might have a guess on how to, well, you just cross a river. No, actually, there's a lot of rules with crossing rivers in the wilderness. So things like that, do you know how to start a fire with no equipment? Most people can't. It's really hard to start a fire.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have ever tried. It's really dang hard. Try it in a rainforest like I did too.
Yeah. A little bit extra hard.
Yeah, I did MacGyver the crap out of it though. On the second night, I did dry out some wood because it's a rainforest and everything was wet. I MacGyvered it with my spray SPF and a lighter. So I made a blowtorch basically to dry out wood the first night.
So smart.
So, yeah. So if you don't know things like that,
I mean,
then,
it's not.
You need to get some training.
Like you said, like that's not stuff that you learn in school or that you would normally do in day-to-day life. So like if you're not familiar, you're gonna get lost in the woods. You have no idea where to even begin, type of situation.
Right. And then the second tip I would give is beware of overconfidence. I do believe my overconfidence and my hiking experience helped attribute to getting in that situation, because it was an unmarked trail. I've done plenty of unmarked trails before. So, I was overconfident when I got on the trail and I noticed some things were off. And I kept going because I was like, I've done unmarked trails before. Oh, I can handle this. I'm good, So my overconfidence and overexperience actually did to me ultimately getting lost. But then again, it's a double-edged sword, because my confidence in my abilities and my experience also were the things that saved my life.
Wow.
So, there's got to be, and I'm working in therapy on this. So definitely that's a process, right?
Of course.
You've got to find a happy medium of, being equipped with the equipment, the tools, the experience, and the education and training, and feeling confident in that, and not, living your life scared. So many people have been saying, well, you shouldn't hike alone. Well, plenty of people hike with other people and get into bad situations anyway. That's an overconfidence in itself. Just because you're with somebody doesn't mean you're safe. So again, you've got to keep that in mind, that, if you're overconfident, a lot of times that can be the very thing that leads you into a dangerous situation because you can handle it. But I'm certainly not suggesting for you to live your life in fear. I'm definitely going to hike alone again. I'm not going to live my life in fear. I'm going
Right.
to make sure that the lessons learned from this time are going to be carried forward. And there's some, some other things I'm probably going to be carrying with me on every hike. But again, you can't always rely on those things. You have to plan that those things won't work out. So have a backup for your backup for your backup, and then watch, check, keep your confidence in check, because that might be the very thing that plants you right into that bad situation.
Right. How has this experience changed your outlook on life or goals you might have?
I think that, well, there's several, but I think the biggest one is my new mantra is, and I kept repeating it to myself out there actually, patience, kindness, empathy. And if I can keep those things in mind, I can keep a lot of things in check. Um, I I tend to be very impatient because I'm goal driven, and I cut things short that maybe shouldn't be cut short. Little things like, conversations with my niece, and time with my family. It's like, okay, well, I get to the next one. I've got work to do, always looking at my watch, and always, I'm very military oriented, what's my next time hack? What do I got to
Right.
do? So kind of stepping out of that mindset and being in the moment more, which we very much struggle with in society nowadays, is not, looking at your calendar and looking at your phone and looking at what's next. And, we've got to fill our busy schedules, pack them in so much.
Right.
I'm guilty of that as a business owner, because, there's always 943 things on my to-do list. So, yeah, I can fill my time up, but, I've got to check my priorities, because you know what? I mean, out there, and if you've ever, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people watching this have maybe been in life-threatening situations. Boy, it checks the heck out of your priorities. Because if I were to have passed away out there, if I were to have died, which was a very real potential for me at that time, if I would have laid my head down at night and given up and got hypothermic and died, would I have been proud of how many hours I spent on my business? Would that be my last thought? No, it wouldn't. It would be all of the wonderful, small, little pieces of time that I spent with my husband and my family and my friends. None of that stuff matters in the end. So just keeping that in check and saying, you know what, don't rush out of this. Don't put a time hack on my family time and say, I've got to get to the next one. Stop, slow down, because at the end of the day, today might be your last day on earth.
Yeah.
I learned that really quickly. This might be my last day on earth. What am I going to be so proud of and just happy to have as a last thought in my mind? It's not going to be about how many hours I put into my business.
No.
So why am I putting so much priority on that in my life? That's a priority check.
Yeah.
Those aren't the things that matter. I'm not saying don't have a job and don't make money for yourself.
Right.
But there's got to, again, just like with the confidence, there's got to be a balance. And I wasn't healthily balanced before this situation. And I am damned and determined to find a healthy balance now on the other side of this. I was given a second chance at life. I mean, it may have been luck, it may have been prominence, it may have been intervention of the spiritual realm, it may have been just me and my skills and whatever. I'm a guy with the crap out of it. I did it, right? Whatever reason I survived out there, it doesn't matter. What matters is what I do with this experience.
Yeah.
I can use it to change things for good, or I can just go back to and pretend it never happened. So those are my two choices now. And I'm determined to shift those priorities and make sure that the next time, if, I am going to die one day, I'm a human being, that those last thoughts are going to be proud of the time that I spent and the priorities that I had with my family and friends and loved ones.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, you're going to make me cry. But it's so true. And it's completely pivotal. I mean, a pivotal experiencing your life. And um, for better or for worse, you are now changed. And it sounds very much like for the better. And you have such an amazing outlook on life and your goals with your company and your personal goals. And I think it's incredible. And I'm completely inspired by you and all of the things that you've said today. Thank you so much for your time. Do you have any final thoughts for our GI Jobs audience here before we go today?
Yeah, thank you, Kate. Yeah, because I know that primarily your audience are people who are transitioning out of the military. And I know that is a really scary thing, you guys. I know for a lot of you, it's like, whoa, like it is overwhelming. And it feels like you are starting all over. And, it kind of sucks because you invested so much of your life in your military career. And, I can definitely say from experience that this isn't, the end of the book for you. It's just the end of the chapter. And you have so many more chapters and more amazing experiences ahead of you. And gosh, you are at such a fresh start in your life. And it's so exciting. You can do anything you want to do. I never in a million years, on the day that I got out of the military, if you would have told me, girl, you're going to be a national speaker, you're going to own your own business, you're going to be, helping military members, veterans, and first responders all around the world get healthier and feel better and cure themselves and release themselves from these chronic issues and
Right.
unhealthy behaviors that they've had and for so long. I would have been like, what are you talking about? No idea. Like
Right.
you have no idea what's in store for your future. So, again, like I did out there in the wilderness, you've got to keep your mindset and your visions on those potentials, that positive potential, not focusing on, well, the worst case scenarios, because you're going to unconsciously sabotage yourself
Right.
and you're going to start behavior patterns of those worst case scenarios to kind of make sure they happen even unconsciously. So if you just only keep positive, wonderful, amazing scenarios for your potential in front of you and keep your eyes on that, then your behaviors are going to follow.
That is such sound, solid advice. And I know that anybody here watching today is going to be grateful to hear that. Thank you so much for your time today. This has been amazing. You are inspiring at a bare minimum. But what you're doing it's just incredible. And we're so lucky and thankful that you took some time to hang out with us today here at GI Jobs.
Thank you, Kate.